Welcome back to Wake Up Epic. This is about embodying the liberator. So specifically, dynamism, specifically independence, and specifically the embodied story here touches on cradle and pillar. So we know this is ultimately and ideally about boundaries, safety, positive self-regard, and the ability to listen to truly feel into the pure signal of creativity that you're uniquely tuned for. So I'm Alex Iglesia, and in Wake Up Epic, we wrap movement around specific themes and patterns to help liberate you. Because why not? Because you matter, and because you've got these potentials locked inside you, and we want to keep unburying them. And there are deep and powerful patterns that you have access to uniquely. So let's get out of everybody's system and into your own. We start with the embodied story, then we'll do 4 rounds using specific activation statements that are connected to the movements. And we'll have a 5th round of just space, silence, and embodiment, where you're gelling and distilling and integrating. My purpose is that by the time we are done together the next 15 to 20 minutes, you will have radically shifted your neurology, your patterns, your nervous system. You'll calm down, you'll be grounded. And more than anything, you'll have access to this particular pattern, which is dynamism. And so the shadow of provocation, think about what you're trying to provoke, how you're trying to disrupt your industry, what kind of change you're trying to make. Now, I bet that you're a little bit like me in that you've tried to change your spouse, your partner, your friend, your family, and it didn't work out that well. And you made some proposals at work or in a project that got a little bit of pushback and resistance. So what if there was a way that you've been provoking the change that you uniquely see as possible, but there's something about your own self-regard and your own listening to the signal, like what that really is, that actually then impacts other people to go for the change or fight you. So wherever you have been a provocateur and it hasn't worked, but you shake it out a bit and choose to let it go. We'll let it go through our practice. Right now, just choose to move and to let it go. Because holding on to those things can stick us in our brains, stick us in our minds, stick us in old narratives that aren't helpful, and conclusions and mistakes that are obviously untrue. The gift of dynamism is what we're going to explore. Now, if we're starting with pillar, which is to say, and try this with me, we shift back and away from the world, up and active, and then narrow. It's like we're pushing something up. In UZAZU, this is called pillar, and it's agency. It's the essence of you as an individual, differentiated and creative. Pillar. From the side, we're stepping back and we're coming up. So it's nice when you're embodying pillar to get your whole body and mind around this. So everything goes up, look up, attention up. Think about the ceiling a little bit. And we can start to see where we get ungrounded in our creating. If you go too much, if you put your awareness way up and you raise your arms a little bit too high, you'll start to disconnect from the ground and forget about your feet and even forget about your core to some degree, unless you've been practicing something along these lines for a while. So find a sweet spot with pillar where you feel your ground, you feel your feet and your legs and core, and even bringing your arms up activates the core in the center of you. If you're not sure, give it a feel, give it a light brace. Okay, this is pillar. From pillar, we shift back into cradle. Cradle is back, down, and wide. We're looking here for a feeling of self-kindness. Cradle is about feeling. It's not about doing, but it gives rise to doing. Who are you when you have dynamic boundaries? Who are you when you're being kind to yourself beyond self-criticism and judgment? So take a moment to feel and imagine, even if you're not feeling it completely, but aim in the direction of, I can be kind to myself. I can cultivate a nourishing space for me. With more practice, we can extend this beyond me to we to others to your project. But the purpose of the Cradle here is to get us into this state of self-kindness, compassion, honor, nobility. Now let's put these two together. We start in pillar, drop down to cradle, shift back to pillar. Now it's one thing to try to put yourself in a state of calm, a state of strength, a state of readiness, a state of liberation, a state of dynamism. It's another to start to move between states, to be able to go from who am I with positive self-regard and self-kindness, and how does that inform or catalyze or give rise to inspired action and creativity? How does feeling and choosing to be strong and take a stand and share my voice inform and support self-kindness? These things co-create each other, and it's hopefully an upward spiral, and it can be a downward spiral. So this is a very, very potent pattern that we're playing with for the 39th gate, gene key, and hexagram. Now what we'll do next, now that you've got the basic pattern, you may already be feeling some tingles. We're going to move into a more fluid flow with breath and a key idea. Now there's 4 key ideas. If we just look at the mechanics of cradle and pillar, we have the essence of supporting yourself through the challenges of learning and skill building. If you've gone through school, then you know what it takes to get the homework done, to get ready to take the test. Same thing with work, same thing with marriage, same thing with anything that you'd like to learn that's a challenge, that's a new skill. You need to show up for it. Now, if you show up for it out of criticism and self-judgment, you might crash. Hasn't been very sustainable for me to try that. But if you can step into that challenge from a place of self-kindness, self-honor, self-worth, as a colleague and friend of mine, Nat, said, what if you came from worth instead of built and created for worth? I was born near Fort Worth in Texas, for whatever that's worth. So cradle and pillar, and we have this basic fundamental pattern of supporting yourself through the challenges of learning and skill building. So what we'll do is we'll have 90 seconds for 4 rounds, quite a bit of space. And if you're doing a very deep dive, not enough, you can do more later. And with each one, I'll drop in a possibility statement that's related to this experience of supporting yourself through challenge and skill building. I suggest you repeat those words to yourself. You can modify them any way you like, own them. But by dropping them into your embodied experience, you're going to find where you can and cannot experience it. The beauty of this is by witnessing where you can and cannot, you are allowing it to actually heal and grow within you and become more and more possible. So this actually catalyzes things for the next hours and sometimes days and sometimes even longer than that. Here we go. The first statement after we do pillar and cradle, find your own flow and rhythm. Move into pillar, drop down to cradle. The statement is, I can trust my capacity to learn and to improve by doing. I can trust my capacity to learn and improve by doing. With that in the background, you're choosing kindness towards self and allowing creative impulse. can trust myself to learn by doing. And everywhere that's not been true, will you let it go today? Our next one. I can be patient and kind towards myself while improving my abilities. Everywhere that's not been true, will you let it go today? Again, I can be patient and kind towards myself while improving my abilities. Allow your breath to be more free. You can't do the movements wrong. I encourage you to do them slow, as if you're listening to yourself, observing yourself. Our next one. I can forgive and accept myself when I make mistakes. I can forgive and accept myself when I make mistakes. Is there a mistake you haven't been able to accept? If you can find some self-kindness with that mistake, you did the best you could at the time with what you knew. Now, what do you know? Our last activation. I can be patient and persistent in finding the ways that are right for me. I can be patient and persistent in finding the ways that are right for me. You've been on a hero's journey quest many times in many ways in this life. There's a way in which life is about finding your unique way and then returning to the community of life to share what you've discovered. For our fifth and final round, I invite you to hold both movements at the same time. So one arm in cradle, one arm in pillar, So you're really creating, or you're bridging the tension between the two. And sit with now what's possible, what's wanting to emerge through you, what are you wanting to make happen. So allowing or choosing, let yourself be energized by this possibility. What is it to have firm, honorable boundaries with what you want to create? We're about to step out of the practice. Take a moment to notice what's the takeaway, what's been the gift and the change for you. So feel what has changed. There may be words or images. Get a sense for what you would say about it. And when you're ready, step out, shake your body, and come to a neutral, relaxed space. Take a look around the room. Something in you has shifted. You've let go of some things, you've processed some things, you may be aware of it, you may not. For our 6th round, which is the realm of how are you a role model now? What are you bringing to the community? What are you bringing to life, having shifted something about this liberation energy, this dynamism energy, this self-regard that can create possibility? So now is a time to consider, what do you have to say? What's the lesson? Journal for a few minutes or speak out loud. But I want you to know that you have changed some things that will make a difference for the next few hours and days. So do be ready to recognize when synchronicity shows up, when something interesting shows up to teach you about dynamism and liberation and what you're creating and what your boundaries are. Oftentimes, these fundamental themes start to ripple out in many ways. And then the cherry on top of it all is your choice. No matter what you witness and observe and allow and receive, you're the one who chooses to integrate it, chooses to try something different, and chooses to provoke and make some change that only you can from your vantage point. It's your choice. And that's what I'm here for. Thanks for waking up, Epic. Thanks for waking up the liberator in you. And I'll see you in the next experience.